My younger sister crashed into a Bugatti and the compensation reached up to 130 million RMB. The car's owner was the most untouchable young miss of Capital City, Miss Bowie. I gritted my teeth and went to find her to ask to pay off this compensation in installments. Can I pay in installments for it? She leaned back against the sofa, staring at me for a full 10 seconds. Her plump red lips curved up slightly. From then on, I became her fake boyfriend so she could use me as a shield. She helped me pay off debts and solve troubles, and even helped me transfer to the music department that I had always yearned for. The only thing I needed to do was to pretend to like her. On the day, Bu Yanhee participated in the national violin competition. I sat under the grandstand. After winning the gold medal, she didn't celebrate with the coach first. Ran backstage to change into a pure white wedding dress, pushed through the crowd and threw herself straight into my arms, taking out a pair of rings, prepared beforehand. Onchen, Nengyet, will you marry me? The whole auditorium screamed, in shock. That pair of rings was worth up to 410 million but right-ons. That very night, her mother sent people to capture me, forcing me onto a flight bound for the UK. At the airport, through the glass pane, I agonizingly looked at her. She also used a gazo, full of deep affection, to look at me, saying her final words, "Wait for me to return." 5 years later, on the streets of London, a woman with an arrogant demeanor stood in front of a big screen. On the screen were clearly photos of me. Over the past 5 years, from an ordinary person, choked by debts, relying on my musical talent, had climbed to the center of the international stage. A skateboard girl skated by and asked, "Pardon me, Mrs. He, your idol." The person didn't budge at all. Her voice cold, yet firm. "My husband. Somewhere else." My assistant Dungko excitedly screamed out, "On Chen! We've received another private performance invite." He was as excited as a child. 100 kilo, sir. I laughed helplessly. "It's just a private performance. Is there any need to be this excited?" Dungko looked mysterious, leaning close to me and lowering his voice. "This time is different. Guess how much the other party is paying, usually." A private performance was around 500,000 RMB. Seeing this look of his, I probed 800,000. He shook his head back and forth. No, guess higher. Even higher. An 800,000. What idiot would pay 1 million RMB? Unexpectedly, Dungko pouted. Higher. Much, much higher. This matter is fundamentally unrealistic. Only then did I become alert. Could this be an easy job with high pay, and to lure me to the border to harvest my organs? We can't accept this man. Preserving our lives is more important. Dungko was poked into laughter by me. He patted his chest to guarantee. Where is your mind wandering? The performance location is right inside the country, right in Capital City. Word is it's a young miss who just returned from the UK. I immediately got curious. Do you know who it is? No clue. It's pretty mysterious. We only know the young miss's surname is Bowie. This surname made my heart skip a beat, as if something deep inside my brain had just been touched upon. Write the tune she requested is Reminiscence. Reminiscence. It seems I've heard it before in my memories. It's so familiar. I tightly knitted my brows. Why can't I grasp that memory? It's as if it was sealed deep down in the recesses of my mind, right when I was struggling to remember. Out of Dungko's mouth suddenly blurted out a shocking number, 5.2 million RMB. The design intent is 520. Truly a blatant confession of "I love you." Being this romantic, could she have a crush on you, on Chen? Just what infatuated girl is secretly harboring a one-sided love for our president, Zhang Luo? I snapped out of it, glared at him, and casually dropped a sentence. "You're overthinking it." The location of the private performance was at Maklan Mansion, the most luxurious, wealthy enclave in Capital City. The other party dispatched an entire Rolls-Royce Phantom Swarm to pick us up. Dung-ko was shocked, to the point of dropping his jaw. Holy crap, is this the class of a young miss? Walked up to me and poked me with his finger. That's too epic. That's too epic. So what if this world has one more person with money? So what? I chuckled. I'll give you a raise this month. As soon as these words left his mouth, he immediately began to flatter. President Xiang is so magnanimous. The Rolls-Royce Phantom ran, extremely smoothly driving straight into Maclan Mansion, stopping in front of a manor with an immensely vast area that seemed to have no end in sight, unimaginably luxurious. The decoration was extravagant. To the extreme, every tiny corner exuded the scent of money strongly. Looking at it deep inside my heart, I couldn't help but be in awe. Just who, in the world, is this young miss to be able to be wealthy to this extent? The butler and the servants stood waiting respectfully at the manor gates. Mr. Jiang, please, sir. I gave a slight nod, a strange premonition rising in my heart as I stepped into the manor. The butler led me to the dressing room. A servant handed me a set of clothes. I raised my eyes to look. It was an outfit bearing the Hanfu style. Please change first, later someone will come to style you. Okay, thank you. Zhou, I politely replied. I quickly changed into the performance outfit, and the size fit me unbelievably well, as if it had been custom tailored just for me. After finishing changing, a stylist began doing my hair, but 20 minutes later, everything was ready. The butler led me to the performance stage. I looked down below. Down there sat a woman with a graceful figure, but the lighting was quite dim, so I couldn't clearly see her face. Yet the gaze of that woman was like a hook gripping tightly onto me before I could think further. The woman raised her hand to signal the start, so I had to cast aside all distracting thoughts, immersing myself, body and soul, into the performance. The performance ended, and I bowed to the audience down low. Just as I stepped off the stage, a servant blocked my path. Mr. Zhang, our young miss, invites you to have dinner. Hearing that, I instinctively turned my head back. The lighting was still dim. I still couldn't clearly see her face against the stage lighting. I stepped closer, step by step. That face finally became clear, striking my eyes. A petite, radiant face, smiling at me, a sexy yet casual long dress, carrying a lazy allure that hit me right in the face. She slowly looked at me, her plump red lips drawing a cunning curve. On Chen, long time no see. Her voice was utterly bewitching instantly, piercing through my eardrums. The very next second, I clutched my left chest. My heart felt as if it were being squeezed by someone hurting so much I could barely breathe. Seeing me like that, she panicked, stood up, and threw her arms around my chest. I let out a soft gasp, my whole body freezing, and standing, nailed to the spot, her arms wrapped around me. And Chen, her tone as gentle as water. Since you're back, don't ever leave me again. I lowered my head to look at the face pressed closely against me, another face that threw me into confusion. My mind was completely blank. I tried to push her away. She raised her head amusedly to look at me, but when she saw my empty ring finger, her pupils instantly constricted. I subconsciously knitted my brows, askance and blankly asking, do the two of us happen to know each other? In that moment, the smile on her lips froze. She stared fixedly at me, her voice trembling slightly with disbelief as she asked back, Chen, have you really forgotten me? I desperately tried to recall, but inside my head it felt as if something was sealed off. I shook my head. The feeling she brought me was very familiar, but I truly couldn't remember it. The atmosphere instantly froze her whole body, as if plunging straight into an ice cellar. Panicked, I shifted my eyes away, not daring to look at her anymore, to escape This eerie ambiguity, I hurriedly pushed her away. Miss Bui, do you have any other requests? If not, I'll go. Change clothes first. She hesitated for a moment, her tone turning cold. Go on. I turned around and walked away. The gaze from behind still heavily clung to me, and I could even feel she definitely wouldn't wait to get rid of me. As long as she settles, resentment emanating from her, my footsteps paused, leaving behind a single sentence of apology before I panicked and left. I walked into the dressing room to change back into my own clothes. My heartbeat still couldn't calm down. For a long time, Dong-ko was ecstatic, hovering around me. President Xiang, do you know the Buick? Young miss. My hand paused, looking at the hazy face in the mirror. After finishing changing, I replied, perhaps so. Dong-ko's eyes instantly lit up. Holy crap, she is so gorgeous. Truly a flawless goddess, that face. That figure. He leaned close to my ear, mysteriously lowering his voice. You can tell just by looking that she has a killer body. President Xiang, you absolutely must win her over. I'll beat you. Suppressing the strange feeling in my heart, I scolded him. Listen to yourself, what are you saying? How can you secretly gossip about others like that? I've met so many people, I absolutely guarantee. At President Zheng, why is your face so red, getting shy so easily? What are you going to do when you fall in love later? I was somewhat helpless, shaking my head. For now, I have no intention of falling in love. Someone brought tea over. Assistant Dung, President Xiang, you've both worked hard these past 2 days. Have a sip of tea. I pressed my lips into a smile, accepted the cup of tea, and took a sip. The very next moment, the servant spoke again. Later on, Miss Bui will have a car, take the 2 of you to leave. I immediately refused. No need to trouble, Miss, but my family members will come to pick me up. The words had just left my mouth when President Zhang's family members have arrived to pick him up, so we won't need a ride anymore. Clear and indifferent female voice suddenly rang out in the room. I turned around to look, following the voice, unexpectedly seeing Bui Yanhee stepping inside. President Zhang's family members arrived just in time. Let me see you off. I snapped back to my senses, hurriedly lowering my head to look at my phone. At this moment, Mom had just conveniently sent a message. Over, and Chen Mom is outside Maclan's mansion. My family members have arrived. I looked at her and said politely. She immediately responded, then let me see you off. President Zhang originally intended to refuse, but seeing this appearance of hers, I had no choice but to nod. Then I'll trouble Miss Bui. Just as we stepped out of Maclan Mansion, a modest Maybach caught my eye. My mother, Tongtua, was standing beside the car. Seeing me, she called out, Anne! Vincent. I hurriedly walked over. Mom even handed me a bouquet of fresh flowers. I accepted it, happily feeling grateful. Thank you, Mom. Hello, Aunt Tung, little. Tung, my mother's gaze accidentally crossed paths with Bui Yanhee. Her gentle smile instantly froze. This must be Miss Bui, right? Hello, Miss Bui. Bui Yanhee's water-clear eyes suddenly turned red. She suppressed her emotions and gently nodded. Greet my mother, her voice sounding cold. I have some matters to attend to. Please excuse me first. Before her words had even finished, she turned around and resolutely walked away. The moment she turned her back, tears silently and without a sound fell down. Inside this bedroom at Maclan Mansion, Bui Yanhee sat leaning against a single-person sofa, sitting there quietly and motionlessly all the way until the first ray of dawn pierced through the curtains and shone upon her completely turned white hair. Extreme grief and despair intertwined together. Bui Yanhee had actually turned white-haired. In just a single night, the ringing of a phone suddenly shattered the stillness. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and after a long while, She picked up the call. Keithan. Juan's crystal-clear voice rang out over the phone. Yenhi. ER. Her voice carried heavy disappointment. What's wrong? Didn't the two of you just experience a reunion after a long separation? Why does your voice sound so sad? Why? Why? The girl sighed softly. Sheng. Jin has amnesia, Keithan. Juan? Shocked. What, are you sure? On the third night, I stood in the middle of the stage of a charity gala playing bamboo flute melody. The final note had just faded when thunderous applause rang out below the grandstand. I retreated backstage, and before my eyes suddenly appeared an elegant and gentle figure, Tu Tain Van. She was holding a large bouquet of flowers in her hands. An Chen, congratulations on your successful performance. Thunderous applause. I retreated backstage, and before my eyes suddenly appeared an elegant, gentle figure, Kong Ting Van. She hugged a large bouquet of flowers in her arms. Jishin, congratulations. The bail for the organization. Thank you. I smiled, accepting the bouquet. But just at that moment, a cold and uncomfortable gaze stabbed straight into me. I raised my head to look over. Unexpectedly, it was Bui Yenhi. Her entire body exuded a wave of dangerous aura that made it hard for people to breathe. Spitting out 3 words, Mr. Zhang. Miss Bui. I hurriedly nodded to greet her. Her gaze swept across my body like a laser beam before stopping on Tu Tain Van's face. Who is this to you? I was a bit clueless about what was going on, but still spoke up to explain, this person is a friend of mine. Hearing that, she let out a soft, sneering chuckle, her lips curling into a mocking smile that was somewhat sarcastic. Right after, her gaze stopped on Tu Tain Van and the freshly gifted bouquet, and she spoke with utter annoyance. Or is she your girlfriend? Reacting reflexively, I explained. Just friends. Wu Yenhai let out a detached, cold laugh and shifted her eyes to look at Tu Tain Van. Oh, so just friends. These flowers are truly beautiful. Can you let me take a look? I nodded. Once, I handed the bouquet over, but at the exact moment I let go of my hands. Who would have thought she would also let go of her hands? That arrogant and gorgeous bouquet of flowers plummeted heavily to the ground, producing a dull thud. I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do it. The woman's mouth said, sorry, but her foot pretended to accidentally step on the petals. I was completely stunned. My heart flooded with 10,000 question marks. After stepping on them, she bent down to pick up the bouquet and threw it straight into the nearby trash can. Motion as smooth and fluid as flowing water and drifting clouds without a single trace of hesitation. She turned back to look at me, her face still wearing an expression of sincere apology. I'm really sorry, Mr. Zheng, but I truly didn't mean to. Saying that, she added another sentence. Later on, I'll buy you another bouquet as compensation. I was completely speechless. Does this count as not meaning to, except for that mouth? Her entire body, from top to bottom, screamed the 2 words, on purpose. In my entire life of looking for trouble, I had never spoken words so brazenly arrogant. Mr. Zhang, why aren't you saying anything? Her innocent gaze asked. Are you blaming me? I was so angered by her that I laughed, only able to stiffly reply with, no, I'm not. I turned my head, intending to say an apology to Tain Van. However, right as I was about to open my mouth, it's just a bouquet of flowers. Wu Yenhi coldly spoke up, cutting off my words. I believe Miss Tu isn't the narrow-minded type of person, right? She looked at Tu Tain Van with a smile that wasn't a smile, her gaze full of provocation. Tu Tain Van's expression froze, yet she forced out a smile. It's just a bouquet of flowers. It's not important. Next time, I'll gift Anchen a better-looking one. Wu Yenhai let out another sarcastic tone. Oh, unimportant things get gifted to idols, while important things just languish in gorgeous splendor. Tu Tain Van's expression instantly flushed red like a pig's liver. She was just about to speak up in explanation when Doomko rushed over anxiously. President Yang, hurry up and go change your clothes. Banquet is about to start. I was pulled away by Doomko. but instinctively glanced back at Bui Yanhee. She was also getting ready to follow us and leave that place, but before leaving, she actually shot Tu Tinch and a deeply provocative look to Din Van's gaze. Instantly turned gloomy, her plump red lips tightly pressed together. The charity banquet ended. I sat inside the car, the tips of my fingers still lingering with the sensation of touching the bamboo flute, but in my head was entirely the image of that trampled bouquet of flowers. I irritably loosened my tie. Dung Ko, in the front passenger seat, kept glancing sideways at me along the way. I massaged the bridge of my nose. "If you have something to say, spit it out." He grinned wide, leaning closer. "President Zhang, today I feel like my eyes were really opened. The acting skills of Bui Young Miss are truly top-notch." She stepped on flowers like she was walking a catwalk. There were so many people backstage, yet not a single person dared to peep a single half-word. I shot him a sidelong glance. "You seem to really admire her." "Admire her? I wouldn't dare. It's just that President Zhang, I keep having this." I squeezed out 2 words from my throat, my voice sounding as dry as rubbing sandpaper together. "I'm begging you," feeling that Bui Young Miss looks at you very unusually. Ever since meeting Bui Yanhee, there had always been a very familiar feeling. I was very certain that inside my brain there truly was no memory of this woman, but why did I feel like she understood me so well? By the time Dung Ko and I got back to the apartment, it was already late at night. I took off my jacket, casually tossing it onto the sofa, just getting ready. Go take a shower when Dung Ko's phone suddenly buzzed continuously. He answered the call, his complexion turning pale, at a speed visible to the naked eye, hanging up the phone. His entire body looked as though his strength had been drained. "President Zhang, we're screwed." My heart skipped a beat. Starting from the latter half of this year, all of our commercial performance invites, every single one of them has been cancelled. I was stunned. All year-end performances at the Huiting Grand Theater, the flute duet with the Shanghai Symphony Orchestra, the Shenzhen International Music Festival, and even the Countdown Festival in Macau. Dung Ko rattled off a whole string of them, running out of breath. Screwed. My breath stalled. These invites were the fruit of 5 solid years of effort that I had painstakingly accumulated, starting from small pubs in Europe, playing the flute all the way to the John F. Kennedy Center, from the time people called me that Chinese kid, until international music critics took the initiative to write feature articles introducing me. Every single performance was my life. What is the reason? I tried to keep my voice as calm as possible. The other party said the schedule has some issues. Dung Ko whimpered. "They will compensate us double the breach of contract fee." I let out a cold laugh, canceling the entire schedule on the very same day at the very same time. This matter clearly had someone meddling behind the scenes. Dung Ko cautiously and timidly looked at me. "President Zhang, could it be Tu Tinch, then?" "She doesn't have that kind of ability. No matter how capable Tu Tingvan was, she didn't have the methods to overturn so many top-tier performances in just a single night. To be able to do this." A buzzing sound rang out in my head. That petite, exquisite face appeared once again at 8 a.m. The next morning, the apartment doorbell rang. Dung Ko, with a guarded expression, ran out to open the door, then turned back. "President Zhang, outside, there's someone here." "Who?" "She calls herself Qi Than Huan. She says she's the best friend of Bui Young Miss." Qi Than Huan. Why was this feeling of both familiarity and strangeness back again? Annoying to death, I tidied up my clothes and stepped outside. Sitting on the living room sofa was a woman wearing a beige trench coat. "Seeing me come out?" She stood up and politely extended her hand. "Mr. Chang, hello." I shook her hand politely yet distantly. "Miss Qi, you've waited long. Do you have business with me?" She got straight to the point. "I came purely to ask you a question on Yanhee's behalf. Do you really not remember anything at all?" I remained silent. Kithanhwan stared straight into my eyes. Jungchun, 5 years ago. You personally said something to me. You still remember? I shook my head. She smiled faintly, a smile carrying an unspeakable exhaustion. But then, you told me Sister Thanhwan if Yenhee is taken away by her mother. Please help me block it for a bit. For my whole life, I'll only marry her. This sentence was like a ruthless key poking deep into my brain, yet the lock didn't budge at all. I pressed hard against my temples, cold sweat seeping out. I'm sorry, I truly don't remember. Thanhwan pulled a set of documents from out of her briefcase. Mr. Shang, this is the exclusive acquisition contract for all of your commercial performances. From the partners' side, signed on behalf of Bui Cultural and Creative Industries, starting from today until the next 3 years. Your schedule will be entirely monopolized by our Bui Group. Next 3 years. In other words, all of the top-tier commercial performances within the country had all been monopolized by Buick. Yenhee in a single sweep. I almost gritted my teeth as I asked, what does she want to do? What does she want? Do you ask Mr. Shang this question? Let's go home, she said. Go home. I looked at her and suddenly burst out laughing. Laughing until tears welled up. Home. What home could I possibly have? My home was destroyed 5 years ago, and my hope was crushed with her own hands just days ago. Ruyan. I looked at her, emphasizing every single word as I asked, did you come to watch? I joke. Congratulations on your success. Everything of mine has been ruined by you. Are you satisfied? She took off her sunglasses. You should go ask her yourself, Miss Key. Being a working professional also has its limits. She let out a faint chuckle, a cold scoff. Mr. Jungyo talked to Yenhee about limits. Why? Miss Bui and I only have a normal cooperative relationship. Jungchun, you can forget her, but you cannot not know what happened 5 years ago, how she was forced onto that flight. Good intentions for what? Thanhwan didn't answer my question, only fumbling to take out from her bag a photograph that had yellowed with age, placing it on the coffee table. Take a look. I stepped over and picked that photograph up. The photo seemed to be from a very long time ago. The corners were curled up. On it were 2 people. One was Bui Yenhee wearing a wedding dress and the other was me, wearing a suit. In the eyes of both people was an overflowing tenderness that could not dissipate. Hands holding the photograph of mine trembled violently, and my temples were throbbing continuously, the feeling as if something was about to break out. A girl standing on a stage, holding a violin in her hands, then smiling as she ran toward me, throwing herself into my arms, her eyes turning red as she said, "Will you marry me?" Right after the image shattered, I staggered a step back, steadying myself against the coffee table so I wouldn't collapse. Mr. Jung, Kithanhwan panicked, reaching out her hand to support me. I'm fine. You remembered something, right? I shook my head. Just a few very faint image fragments. Kithanhwan's gaze, looking at me immediately, changed, shifting from initial hostility to complexity. In this moment, she hesitated for a few seconds before finally speaking. Jung, Chen, 5 years ago, you and Yenhee breaking up had nothing to do with whether her mother agreed or not. My heartbeat skipped a beat. Athena, your father's Jiangxi Medical, because of reasons originating from the Bui family, was on the verge of bankruptcy. My pupils constricted. Yenhee, in order to save your father's company, made a deal with her mother. She agreed with Madame Bui to go abroad to study, in exchange for Jiangxi Medical being revived. The blood in my body instantly turned freezing cold. Kithanhwan let out a cold laugh. Mr. Zhang, every single time a benefactor assisted you in your career, every single time you were lucky enough to be exceptionally promoted and stand out, standing behind it all was a Yenhee helping you. The living room sank into silence, leaving only my heavy, rapid heartbeat. My fingers clenched tightly into fists. Over the past 5 years, I had thought those inexplicable performance invites were because the heavens had eyes, turns out. There was someone in a place I couldn't see, paving out an entire road strewn with roses for me ahead of time. And I, at the 5-year mark, when she returned, looked at her face and asked, "Did we know each other before?" Juan let out a long sigh. "I shouldn't have told you in the first place." My voice was hoarse, my bloodshot eyes staring at her. "Then why did you tell me?" She pointed out the window. "Because she stayed awake the entire night, and her hair turned more than half white." I abruptly raised my head. "Zhang, in my entire life I have never seen anyone turn white-haired over a single night for someone else, but Yenhe did it, outside the window." The sky had grown completely bright, yet I felt then as though I were sinking into an endless abyss of darkness. After Keith and Juan left, Dungko carried coffee and seeing me, sitting motionless on the sofa. He carefully placed the coffee cup down on the table. "President Zhang." I didn't raise my head. "President Zhang, are you okay?" I slowly looked at that photograph, the tips of my fingers gently stroking the face of the girl in the photo. After a long while, I finally spoke in a low voice. "Dungko, help me investigate something." "President Zhang, just name it." I flipped over the back of the photo. On the back was a line of elegant handwriting. "And Chen, our first weddings ceremony, I'm marrying you." The date was the 8th of June, 5 years ago. I clenched the photograph so hard that my knuckles turned pale white. "Help me investigate whether on June 8th, 5 years ago, at St. Joseph's Church near the western suburbs of Capital City." On the back was a string of exquisite handwriting. "Jishen, our first wedding. I am marrying you." The date was June 8th, based on memory. These posts were quickly taken down. The Liu family's crisis response capability was beyond imagination, but I didn't care about deleting. Did there have a wedding that wasn't fully held or not? Dongtu looked at me with a bewildered expression. "President Zhang 5 years ago." I raised my head, my eyes a mass of fiery red. "Go to work." After Dongtu left, I sat on the sofa all night long, turning that photograph over and over again. Not under hundreds of times. The girl in the photo smiled brightly, without any guardedness, while the person who was me in that picture had eyes as clear as if just stepping out of spring. I didn't know how I had lost her, nor did I know how I had made her. At 6 a.m., Dongtu rushed into the apartment. He didn't knock directly, using the spare key to charge in. His hair was as messy as a bird's nest, and the bags under his eyes were pitch black. "President Zhang." He slammed a stack of documents in his hands down onto the coffee table. I bolted upright. "Spit it out, just spit it out." "President Zhang, prepare yourself." I snatched up the top sheet of paper. It was a copy of the registration records of war. St. Joseph's Church, near the western suburbs of Capital City. On June 8, 5 years ago, 3:00 p.m. Bride and groom, Kongchen Bui Yenhe. In the witness section, 2 names were signed. One was Keith and Juan, and the other was my father, Kang Chuan. My fingers began to tremble violently. "President Hang, there's another copy." Dongtu pulled out yet another sheet of paper. "This is the payment statement from that day. Every single transaction was signed by your father's own hand." I slumped blankly back down onto the sofa. Turns out that wedding not only truly existed, it was even handled single-handedly by my own father. Turns out over the past 5 years, the whole family had been joining hands to deceive me alone. "President Zhang Shidong." Thu's voice dropped very low. I raised my eyes to look at him. "There's one more thing." He swallowed hard. "In the middle of the night, I found the old security guard of St. Joseph's Church. Go drink." He said that day the wedding was only being held halfway when something happened. What happened? When the bride exchanged rings, the 2 of them fell down from the stairs. The bride fainted right on the spot. And what about me? You also fainted. But luckily, the exact moment the accident happened, the bride hugged you tightly, shielding you, so you only suffered slight scrapes. Jung-Thu paused. Afterwards, some other things happened. I closed both my eyes tightly. A scalding tear rolled down from the corner of my eyelashes. I no longer had the courage to keep listening. Inside my head, not the sentence of that woman echoed, "Jung-Chen, have you really already forgotten me?" I stood beneath the Bowie Group building, tightly gripping a cup of Americano that was still steaming. This was information I had gotten Jung-Thu to investigate Buyenhe every afternoon at. We'll be going downstairs now, the cafe opposite, to buy a cup of Americano with no added sugar and no added milk sticking to it to the point of making people furrow their brows. Kithan Huan once said this habit she formed while in the UK, and for 5 years she still hadn't changed it. A habit of 5 long years, yet I didn't even remember what she liked to drink. Right at 3:00, the revolving door was pushed open. She stepped out, holding a phone in her hand, engrossed in looking at something. She swept past right in front of my eyes, her gaze basically not even bothering to glance in my direction a single bit until I spoke up to call out Yenhe. She stopped in her tracks, turned her head, and dropped just 2 neat, decisive words, cutting off the air. "What is it?" The words I had prepared in advance suddenly choked in my throat. "I want to talk to you." She glanced at her watch. "What is there to talk about? I have 15 minutes. I slightly slumped casually, handing the cup of coffee over. "I heard you like drinking Americano. I just happened to pass by and bought one." She glanced over it without taking it. "Jung-Chen, you don't need to be like this. I don't have anything else. I just want to apologize." She cut me off, her tone as calm as reading a report. "You have already apologized," Kithan Huan already told me. "The apology you said. I have also received it. Is that enough?" I gripped the coffee cup tightly rooted to the spot, suddenly realizing how ridiculous I was. Right, I had already apologized, but after that. So what? I laboriously spoke up. "During that time. At that time, I truly didn't remember anything about you, about wedding, about everything. I didn't mean to. I know Kithan Huan has already told me everything. Amnesia, selective forgetting, psychological trauma medicine has a logical explanation for it, which makes complete sense. So what? Do you expect me, because of a single 'I don't remember' from you, to treat the past 5 years as if nothing ever happened?" I didn't mean it like that. "Then, what do you mean?" I looked straight into her eyes, yet couldn't utter a single word, only able to forcefully suppress it as I looked at Gao. The woman took a deep breath. "Jung-Chen, I don't hate you. Hating someone is too exhausting. I don't have that kind of energy anymore. I just don't know how to face you. So you don't need to go out of your way to look for me either. Between us, no one owes anyone anything." Finished speaking, she turned around, intending to leave. She walked 2 steps, then paused, turning her back toward me to say, "And another thing, I don't drink Americano." I watched Buyenhe's retreating figure grow further away, tossing that cup of coffee into the trash can. That night I suffered from insomnia, lying in bed with my head completely filled with doubt. Her cold gaze. She said she didn't hate me, but she also hadn't forgiven me at all. I had turned into someone not worth bothering to care about. In her eyes, I got up, grabbed my phone, and found the contact info for Jung-Thu. Help me check her upcoming schedule. 5 minutes later, Jung-Thu replied with a question mark. "President Xiang, didn't you say not to disturb her anymore?" I sheepishly cleared my throat. I changed my mind. "Do you have a problem with that?" No. Or my boss. Whatever you say goes." Early the next morning, Jung-Thu sent a report to my phone. It was Buyenhe's schedule for this week. I glanced over the report, my fingers pausing on the screen. Thursday orphanage. Today was precisely Thursday. Without allowing myself any time to hesitate, I directly drove to the orphanage. After arriving, I sat in the car, standing from afar to watch her play around with the kids. She squatted down on the ground with a little girl wearing braided horns stacking building blocks. The look when she smiled matched up with a certain faint outline left over in my memories. Remembered that smile. I really remembered it. My heart suddenly skipped an extra beat. Didn't get out of the car, just sitting inside, from afar, watching her tease and play with the kids, sharing a small piece of birthday cake. She smiled very brightly, completely different from the person downstairs at the buoy group yesterday. Turns out, in front of others, she still knew how to smile. All the way until her car left the orphanage. Did I start the engine and tail closely behind? Bui Yenhee didn't go home, instead heading to a place in the western suburbs of capital city. I drove trailing behind her, stopping at an old neighborhood. She walked into a musical instrument shop. I waited inside the car for around 40 minutes. When she walked out, in her hands she carried a long rectangular box, a violin case. She carefully placed the instrument case onto the front passenger seat. Just as she bent over to store the instrument, her gaze suddenly swept past my car, parked across the street. Our eyes intersected across the distance of a street for a second, then stood up straight, looking at me, as if trying to confirm what on earth I was planning to do. I got out of the car and walked over. What happened to your violin? She glanced sideways at me. The instrument body has a few minor cracks, and the fingerboard was a bit unglued. Uncle Zhao helped me glue it back together a bit, and by the way, replaced it with a brand new set of strings. Her tone of voice while speaking was very calm, just like chatting with an ordinary friend, yet the fingers tightly gripping her instrument case clenched slightly tighter. I caught that tiny detail. Can you let me take a look? She hesitated for a second, then handed the instrument case over. I flipped the inside face of the instrument, face up, immediately spotting a carved line of text. A fingerstop suddenly stiffened. IYA, which were the initials of Yenhee's name. I raised my head to look at her. The first listener you gifted it to, I'm crying. I lowered my head to look at the text I carved. Why didn't I remember it anymore? She reached out to support the instrument. Ace placed it back onto the passenger seat, closed the car door, turned around to look at me and asked, blurring the ink lines. I closed the diary, my heart tangled in 100 ways. I had always thought of her as a cold-blooded, heartless devil, not realizing that beneath her cold mask. Why are you following me? I pressed my lips together. I don't know. I just wanted to look at you for a bit. She did not speak. The wind blew past, messing up a few of her hair strands. She brought her hand up to tuck her hair behind her ear. Now you've seen her, so what? I paused for a moment. Are you still coming to the orphanage tomorrow? She looked at me, her gaze flashing with the trace of hard-to-understand emotion. I'm going. Then tomorrow I'll come. Again. She didn't answer, but also didn't refuse, simply pulling open the car door and sitting inside. The car window rolled down halfway, her voice carrying out from inside. Junction, you don't need to make amends. Like this for me, I don't need your pity. I don't pity you. I just want to. She didn't add any more words. The car slowly rolled away from the street corner. I stood rooted to the spot, watching her until her taillights disappeared behind the turn. The phone in my pocket suddenly buzzed once it was a text message sent by her, 10 a.m. tomorrow. I stared blankly at those 4 words standing by the roadside, and involuntarily laughing out loud, I put my phone back into my pocket, just intending to head home. When my phone suddenly buzzed again, it was a call from Dongthu, President Zhang. There's this matter I think I must report to you. Tutin Van just met someone this afternoon, Dongthu reported with disappointment. At a private club in the eastern, 3rd Ring Road. I immediately ran a check on the person she met. He carries the Bui surname, Ahmed Buikanhan. Buikanhan. Had never heard this name before in my life. Who is that? Dung Thu paused for a moment, answering. That's the eldest son of the main branch of the Bui family. According to seniority, he counts as Bui Yenhe's cousin. Bui Yenhe's cousin. Why would he look for Tu Tin Van? It's unclear, but I conveniently dug up some old stories. 5 years ago, at the time when Bui Yenhe's mother took power, she kicked Buikanhan's father out of the board of directors. From then on, the two families no longer interacted much. To put it bluntly, there was pre-existing bad blood. I gripped my phone tightly, my brain spinning at dizzying speed. Tu Tink. Van and Bui Yenhe's cousin, these two people getting together. Who is the target? It goes without saying. Can you check what he's been up to lately? I asked. I'm already investigating, but this guy is pretty tight-lipped. There's no movement out in the open. Keep an eye on him, and if there's any news at all, you must report it to me immediately. At 9:30 a.m. the next morning, I had already arrived before the orphanage gates, carrying a hot cup of latte with sugar and milk, and also conveniently bringing an extra portion of sandwich. Arrived half an hour earlier than the appointed time, just sitting on the bench outside the door, waiting. At 9:50 a.m., a white Audi pulled up before the gates. Today, she was wearing a pink coat, her hair tied in a high ponytail, wearing a pair of silver earrings. She stepped out of the car, seeing the coffee and paper bag in my hands. Today I also brought a sandwich. Are you hungry? She reached out to take the coffee and sandwich, lowering her head to glance at it once. Although she didn't say a word, the corners of her mouth curved up slightly. She didn't eat right away, just carrying it in her hand as she turned and walked inside the courtyard. I followed closely behind. The activities at the orphanage were no different from yesterday's. Reading picture books with the kids, stacking building blocks, eating snacks. Throughout the entire process, she was very focused, joyfully, playing on the ground, blending as one with the little ones. There were still plenty of snacks left over, helped out nearby by distributing fruit. My gaze, always firmly glued to her. Snack time ended, and the kids were led away for their nap. She sat on the swing in the courtyard, finally opening that sandwich portion up to take a bite. I sat down on the swing beside her. Yesterday, you told me to be careful of Tu Tin Van. Did you not believe me? Joanne continued asking. Then what about your cousin? Her movement of chewing the sandwich suddenly paused, lasting around a few seconds, screaming, you don't believe it. Yeah, continued asking. Then what about your thighs burning red? Her brother rushed forward, wanting to drag her away. Sister, you've gone mad. How can you, the proud eldest miss of the Liu family, how can you be here doing chores? She finally swallowed it down. She didn't look at me, her voice calm to an unusual degree. Did you investigate him? It wasn't me who investigated. Someone saw him go meet Tu Tin Van. She was silent for a long while. The wind swept past the frame of the swing, making it gently sway, after which she spoke. Buikanhan is my eldest uncle's son. Her voice was very soft. 5 years ago, after my mother invited his father out of the board of directors, he always felt that our family owed him. I concernedly asked, will he cause trouble? She didn't answer, merely turning her head back to meet my gaze. He doesn't dare openly step out to oppose me, but if joins hands with others, then that's hard to say. My heart sank. Out. She knew all about it. You knew about him going to meet Tu Tin Van. I didn't know they met, but I could guess that they would meet. Tu Tin Van detests me and Buikanhan also hates me. Two people harboring resentment against me gathering together couldn't possibly be to discuss planning a birthday party. For me, could it? I was provoked by her tone, the point of wanting to laugh, yet couldn't laugh at all. What are you planning to do? I'm not planning anything at all. She took the sandwich. She had just taken a bite of her smile fading. If they want to make a move against me, they'd better have the guts to do it. When she uttered this sentence, her tone was very faint and indifferent, as if she didn't take those two people into her eyes at all. Yet I noticed how the fingers holding her paper bag, clenched slightly. I opened my mouth just, intending to speak when the phone in my pocket suddenly buzzed frantically. Took it out to check it was a text message sent by Dung Thu. President Zheng, it's been figured out. Hui Kan Han registered a new company 3 days ago. The legal representative is someone you don't know, but after stripping down the shares, the ultimate beneficiary is still him. This new company yesterday just submitted an acquisition letter of intent to Bui Cultural and Creative Industries. He wants to buy a business segment under Bui Cultural and Creative Industries, and this business segment happens to precisely be the subsidiary companies in charge of connecting all of your performance shows. I stared fixedly at the screen, my pupils slightly constricting. I raised my head to look in her direction. She was also lowering her head to look at Mat's her own phone, her eyebrows slightly knit together. Obviously, she too had received the related news. After reading the text message, she put her phone down, raised her head to look at me, and broke into a faint smile. Zhang Chen, this afternoon. Are you busy with anything? I'm not. I shook my head. Then come with me. To a place, shall we? Where to? She stood up, dusting off the non-existent dust on her clothes, the corners of her lips curling into an arc. Naturally, to go meet my good cousin. Before I could even reply, she had turned around and walked toward the car, parked at the gates. Yen He. I abruptly looked back at her. What are you standing there? Stunned for let's go. I hurried round to the passenger seat and sat inside the car, which immediately sped straight out. The wind blew past, threading through the soft hair strands. By her ear, my gaze fleetingly swept over. Her expression was very calm. Even calm, to an outrageous degree. How do you plan to talk to him? Talk about what? Tell him that I already know all about his little tricks played behind my back. He let out a faint chuckle. I won't say anything. I was a bit confused. What do you mean by staying silent? He registered a new company and drew up an acquisition letter of intent. All of those are completely legal and compliant. Commercial actions. If I rush over to question him, he will instead play the victim and shout thief while catching thieves, saying that I, his cousin, am narrow-minded and unable to tolerate family doing business. She paused for a beat. Therefore, I won't go discuss acquisition matters with him. Then why are we going to see him? She cast a sideways glance at me, a smile drawing across the corners of her mouth. To go give him a gift. Why else? Give a gift. To congratulate him on his company's grand opening. I was stunned. Ill. She paused for a beat and said, so I won't be discussing the acquisition with him. Then why are you going to see him? She glanced over at me, the corners of her mouth curving into a smile. To give him a gift, of course. Just one brief reply was enough to make. After a moment, I figured out her goal. I leaned back against the seat and laughed along as well. You're really vicious, too. She didn't reply, but the corners of her mouth ticked up a few degrees higher. The car parked at the lobby of a brand new office building. I raised my head to take a look. This building was located right opposite the headquarters of Bui Cultural and Creative Industries, separated by just a single road situated right in the direct line of sight to the office. The chairman of Bui Cultural and Creative Industries choosing this location was clearly meant to provoke. She stepped out of the car, took an extremely exquisite gift bag out from the trunk, and strode straight into the building's lobby. Receptionist was startled upon seeing her. Miss Bui, why are you here? Boy. Yanhai smiled, extremely demurely and gently. I'm here to see my cousin. I heard his new company is opening, so I'm here to congratulate him. The receptionist hesitated for a moment, ultimately still making a phone call upstairs. After hanging up the phone, the receptionist's expression was somewhat complicated. President Bui invites you up. It's on the 16th floor. Thank you, Bo. Bui Yanhai smiled and said thank you, carrying the gift bag as she headed toward the elevator. I stepped along inside. The moment the elevator doors closed, gentle smile on her face vanished instantly. You played that really well. Just now looking just like a good younger sister. She didn't speak, but from the reflection on the elevator door, I saw a trace of coldness flash past the depths of her eyes. 16th floor. We've arrived. At the end of the hallway was a lavishly decorated office. The door was ajar. She directly pushed the door open and walked in. Buikan Han looked to be over 30 years old, his gaze exuding crafty look. Seeing Bui Yenhe step in, a smile immediately bloomed on his face as he stood up to welcome her. Ha ha. Yenhe, why are you here? You didn't even give a prior notice, so I could have someone prepare a bit. That smile was overly enthusiastic, and at a single glance, you could tell it was fake. Why? And he also smiled even more genuinely than him. You opened a new company, such a big deal, and you didn't even notify me. I even had to find out from elsewhere. So that's why I went out of my way to come over and congratulate you. She placed the gift bag onto his office desk, her movements gentle, her bearing. Rip, you're too polite. It's just a small scale business, not worth making a big show of. Small scale business, this layout, this prime location, no matter how you look at it. It doesn't look like a small business, cousin. So this setup is meant to accomplish great things. No, how can it compare with the scale of your Bui cultural and creative industries? His gaze suddenly fell onto me as if he had just noticed my existence. And this person is your friend Chung Chen. And he introduced very casually, just like dragging along someone of little importance. Buikan Han heard my name, his gaze flickering in a hard-to-detect way, but very quickly returned to normal. President Kyung. He extended his hand toward me. Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you. I shook his hand. You're too polite, cousin. He looked at me once more, that gaze carrying scrutiny and consideration. He withdrew his hand, looking back over at Bui Yenhe. Yenhe, your complexion hasn't been looking too good lately. He switched to an expression of concern. Could you be staying up late again? Health is important. Don't push yourself too hard. I'm doing fine. He then seemed to remember something. Oh, right. I heard lately you've been getting quite close with the two family. My heart tightened. He took the initiative to bring it up. The smile on Yenhe's face didn't change at all. Cousin, your news is certainly sharp. The circle of connections is only this big. Wanting not to hear about it is also difficult. I noticed his gaze flick past my face quickly. The two family in Kyung City can be considered to have some clout. Interacting with them, being a bit more careful is never extra. His words sounded like well-intentioned advice, but I could hear that he was implying Bui Yenhe knew who she was associating with, and also implying he knew the person by her side, also has a connection with the two family. Bui Yenhe didn't answer, him merely smiling and nodding. You're right. Then I won't disturb you any longer with your busy work. Let's go have a meal together. Some other day, when we're free. Having spoken, she turned and left. I followed behind. Once we reached the door, I turned back to take a look. Buikan Han was already standing behind his desk. The smile on his face completely extinguished, his gaze as cold as a blade in midwinter. The moment the elevator doors closed, I let out a long breath. Did you sense that he didn't come to fight a business war with you? He came to let you know that he knows what you're doing, and he knows who you are with. Yenhe didn't speak. Her fingers curled slightly. We stepped out of the main lobby and back into her car. She didn't immediately start the engine, instead leaning back against the seat and looking out through the windshield, the top floor window of the Bui Cultural and Creative Industries headquarters tower. That was her office. He deliberately opened a company opposite you, just so that every day when you raise your head, you can see his signboard. Do you know what he wants to do? She was silent for a moment, then uttered a sentence that sent a chill down my spine. Wants to make the incident of my mother kicking his father out of the board of directors in the past repeat itself once more. It's just that this time the person kicked out will be me. Inside the car, it was silent for a few seconds. I spoke up. Then what are you planning to do? She turned her head to look at me, smiled, and then started the car. I leaned against the passenger seat, casting a sideways glance at her calm expression. This woman was much more complicated than I had imagined. She didn't need me to protect her. She needed someone standing by her side who wouldn't get in her way when she made her move. That night, I returned to my apartment and sat on the sofa, in my head continually rewinding the scene. In Buikan Han's office today, his sentence to Ting Van seems to be paying attention to that friend of yours, lingering in my ears. Buikan Han wasn't just speaking casually. He deliberately said it for Bui Yenhe to hear, to tell her, I know who is by your side, and I also know who wants to make a move. I picked up my phone, sending a text message to Dung Thu. Help me investigate how Ting Van and Buikan Han know each other, and they met, and if there is anyone pulling the strings behind them. A few minutes later, Dung Thu replied, Understood. Right, President Chang. There's one thing I forgot to mention. This afternoon, when you weren't home, someone sent a courier package to the apartment. The sender was listed as Miss Tu. I stared fixedly at the screen, my pupils constricting. Tu Tin Van knew my home address before I could even reply to the text message. A second one popped up. I haven't opened the package. It's left under the shoe cabinet outside your door. I stood up and walked to the door. Sure enough, seeing a small paper box under the shoe cabinet, I squatted down to unpack the package. Inside was a black velvet box. I opened the lid. Placed inside was a pair of cufflinks, and underneath was pinned a business card. The flowers that night were stepped on by someone, so I'm compensating you with a pair of cufflinks. Next time we meet, I hope to see you wearing them. To Ting Van. I stared fixedly at that card for a long time. She sent cufflinks to me while Buikan Han had mentioned her right in front of Bui Yenhe. These two people, one in the light, one in the dark, were as if joining hands to play a game of chess, and the pieces on the board weren't just me and Bui Yenhe. I closed the box lid, placed it on the coffee table, and replied to Dung Thu with a sentence. I know about the courier package. Continue investigating Buikan Han. The more detailed, the better. Putting the phone down, I leaned back against the sofa and closed my eyes. The next morning, I arrived at the orphanage gates, 40 minutes early, carrying a hot cup of latte and a sandwich as usual. However, today I also did one more thing. I had Dung Thu compile a detailed dossier on Buikan Han, printed out, and put it into a craft paper envelope when she stopped her car at the gates and saw the envelope in my hand. Her eyebrows twitched. What is that? The resume of my good brother-in-law. What is that? My older brother's resume. Handing the envelope to her. You told Dung Thu to investigate all through last night just how many companies are registered under his name, where the capital came from, and who he has met over the past 3 months. It's all in here. She accepted the envelope but didn't open it right away, instead raising her head to look at me. Why did you investigate him? Because he is targeting you, and I can't let you fight him all by yourself. She looked at me, holding the thick stack of documents in her hand, silent for 2 or 3 seconds, after which she put the envelope into her bag, the corners of her mouth slightly twitching. Thank you. Her voice was very soft, but I heard it. That day, in the orphanage, when she played around with the kids, she had relaxed a bit more than before. I sat on the bench beside her, unpacking the sandwich to eat. The swing creaked. Sunlight pierced through, leaf gaps slanting down. In the air drifted hints of sunlight and the scent of biscuits. I watched her squatting on the ground, holding hands to teach a little girl how to stack blocks. The braided pigtails swayed along with each movement. Her actions were not a person in my memories, but I was little by little getting used to her all over again. That afternoon, she didn't mention the matter of Buikan Han, nor did she ask why I helped her. She just stood at the orphanage gates as I prepared to leave, saying one thing to me. Are you coming again tomorrow? If so, help me bring an iced tea Americano. I paused. Didn't you not drink iced drinks? She tilted her head, her gaze carrying a trace of mischievousness. Didn't you say you would slowly remember my habits? Having spoken, she turned around and got into the car. I stood at the orphanage gates, smiling, for several seconds. Afterwards, I grabbed my phone and texted her I'll bring iced coffee for you tomorrow. She didn't reply, but I saw the white Audi pause at the intersection for a second, before turning away and vanishing. Through the car window I faintly saw her lowering her head to look at her phone. That day after, returning from the orphanage, I sat in the apartment and took out the dossier on Bui Kan Han, flipping through it 3 times. Jung-Thu worked very meticulously. Apart from business registration information and cash flow, she had even attached log of social interactions for Bui Kan Han over the past 3 months, who he met, under what circumstances, even down to which restaurant he treated guests at in the evening, and who he had dinner with, all listed in crystal clear detail. I stared fixedly at a single log entry, my fingers pausing 3 months ago. Bui Kan Han, at a private racecourse in the suburbs of Beijing, had met Tu Tinvan's father, Tu Minvian, once. The meeting time was about 40 minutes. Tu Minvian, I read this line of text once more, then picked up my phone and called Jung-Thu. The time Bui Kan Han met Tu Minvian, what did they discuss? Can you find out? On the other end of the line, Jung-Thu fell silent for 2 seconds. I'm afraid the content of meeting at that level cannot be probed out, but I can let you know one thing. Not long after that meeting, company under Tu Minvian's name poured sum of money into Bui Kan Han's new company. The amount wasn't large, precisely equal to the odd change of the registered capital. Hearing this, I frowned. You mean the Tu family is backing him? It can be understood that way. Hanging up the phone, I leaned back against the sofa and pondered for a very long time. Bui Kan Han had pulled the Tu family into his camp, relying on the fact that Tu Tingvan and I had a falling out Tu Minvian couldn't possibly not know. Was willing to fund Bui Kan Han, proving that he not only wanted to vent anger on behalf of his daughter, but that he himself was also very glad to see Bui Kan Han go head-to-head against Bui Yanhe. Their forces were a bit larger than I had imagined, while Bui Yanhe at this moment was still sitting on the other side of the chessboard, waiting for the opponent to make the first move. I stood up and walked over to the window, looking out into the pitch-black night. She could wait, but I couldn't. Early the next morning, I didn't go to the orphanage. I went to a place, St. John's Church, in the northwestern suburbs of Beijing. In my memories, this was the first time I had actively stepped into this place. Those chaotic images before had all been passively triggered. I pushed the door open and walked in. The interior was empty, save for the front row of pews, where an elderly woman dressed in black sat with her head lowered in prayer. I tiptoed over to a back pew and sat down, trying to dredge up memories of this place from my mind. I could remember nothing. Just as I was about to leave, an old voice rang out from behind. Are you Kong Chenta? I turned around to see an old man wearing a gray shirt, standing at the door. You are? I'm the manager here. Surname Chu. The old man walked over. I thought you looked familiar, and just remembered I'd met you here before. You remember me? My heart shook. Of course, 5 years ago. You held your wedding here. Manager Chu sat down beside me. You want to know what happened during the wedding ceremony that day, from 3 in the afternoon to 8 in the evening. I was on duty. That afternoon, the bride and groom walked in together. And then, the ceremony started at 6 in the evening. The church was stuffed with white lilies. The moment the bride appeared, everyone went quiet. You little punk were so nervous back then, you were stuttering. He paused for a moment. After that, the stage collapsed. The blood in my body felt like it froze over. There wasn't any warning sign at all. The entire main viewing platform just collapsed like that. The bride was standing closest to you. Her very first reaction was to rush over, to hug and protect you. You only suffered minor scrapes. After that, both of you passed out when the ambulance arrived. The doctor said neither person had any serious problems, just that they had fainted from being too terrified. Then and after that, both of you were put into the ambulance, and I escorted you all the way to the doors. And after that? As for what happened after that, I don't know. The manager stood up, patting my shoulder. For what came after, you'll have to go ask the people who were by your side. Then I'm just a gatekeeper. I bolted out of the church, pulling out my phone as I walked. Dung-thu picked up very quickly. Dung-thu, the matter between me and Yenhee, you knew all about it, right? The other end of the line fell silent for 5 seconds. What do you want to talk about? The last time I met. We Yenhee. Dung-thu's breath suddenly grew heavier. At the airport, she was forcibly taken away, and after that I passed out and woke up with amnesia. She was silent for a long while. After the wedding incident, Bui family arranged for her to go to the UK. We all thought that she didn't continue. Thought what? Thought that she wanted a better life. Didn't want any more involvement with you. I laughed, a truly cold laugh. You all thought that way. Then why didn't any of you tell me? Dung-thu didn't answer. I roared angrily. Why? Because no one wanted you to suffer any more pain. That night, you were in a coma in the hospital, calling out her name. For an entire long night, no one had the heart to let you remember her anymore. Dung-thu's voice grew hoarse as well. I took a deep breath. Then what happened after that? A few days later, your father picked you up to take you home. Later on, your father told you that Bui Yenhee had gone to the UK. At that time, you had completely no reaction. The doctor said that was due to an excessive psychological shock leading to fainting and amnesia. It had been 5 years. I closed my eyes tightly. Everyone had deceived me. I opened my eyes wide, looking at the road ahead, and drove straight toward Jiang Corporation. I slammed on the gas, rushing the car straight into the main gates of Jiang Corporation. The receptionist saw me and was startled. President Jiang. I didn't stop stepping into the elevator, closing the doors, and pressing the button for the top floor. I pushed the door open and stormed straight into the executive office. You lied to me. Everyone lied to me, keeping me completely in the dark. My father was sitting behind his desk reviewing documents. He raised his head to see me storming in. At that, he had absolutely no reaction. The doctor said it was caused by excessive psychological shock leading to fainting and amnesia that has lasted for 5 years. I tightly closed my eyes. Everyone had been deceiving me. I snapped my eyes open, staring at the road ahead, driving the car straight toward the Jiang Corporation. I slammed on the gas pedal, charging the car right into Jiang Corporation's main gate. The receptionist girl saw me and was stunned, stammering, Director Hong? I didn't stop, entered the elevator. The doors closed, and I pressed the button for the top floor. I pushed open the door and stormed straight into the luxurious office. You lied to me, everyone. Lied to me, keeping me completely in the dark. My father was sitting behind his desk, reading documents. He raised his head to see me slamming my hands down on, and paused. Zhengchen, why have you come here? I didn't sit down, speaking directly and loudly. The wedding was handled single-handedly by you. The name of the witness was also signed by you, and the payment vouchers were all your signatures. So why, when I forgot Bui Yenhee, did you never open your mouth to mention it, even once? He put his pen down, leaned back against the chair, and looked at me for a long time. You know about it all now. Zhang Juan closed his eyes for a moment. After the accident at the wedding, the girl was immediately shipped onto an airplane. Her mother, personally, called people over to drag her away. I assumed that girl had chosen a better life, and it wasn't you. After you woke up, you didn't remember anything anymore. The doctor said it was amnesia caused by psychological trauma following the shock. I thought that was the heaven's mercy bestowed upon you. Mercy. My voice couldn't suppress its outrage. You consider the 5-year sacrifice of a person to be an act of betrayal and faithlessness. You used her going to the UK in exchange for Jiang's Corporation's revival from the dead. Every single benefactor in your career was paved the way for by her. You all thought she abandoned me. Person thinking she abandoned me. But the reality is she was carrying this entire family on her back instead of you guys. The office door was pushed open. Tong Tu Lan stood at the doorway. Seeing my expression, the teacup in her hand was set down instantly. Jungchen, calm down, first Mom. When she saw her, the smile on Mom's face froze. Solid, her attitude was as polite and distant as if seeing a total stranger. Don't you feel ashamed? He ditched you and left, leaving you in a coma and unconscious, continually shouting her name. Mom hated Bui Yenhi for abandoning you. She hated her for 5 whole years. Yet she didn't abandon you. She was forcibly dragged away by her birth mother. That day at the airport, she turned back and screamed loudly for you to wait for her, yet she was dragged away onto the plane by force. You witnessed her being shipped away with your own eyes. Yet after waking up, you didn't remember anything anymore. Feng Taolan's gaze fluctuated violently. The betrayal and faithlessness that you all imagined, that was actually her sacrifice. She shouldered everything in the UK instead of you guys for 5 years. While you guys hated her for 5 years, you didn't even have the chance to hate her, because you even forgot her name. Zhang Qiyuan gripped the edge of the desk tightly, his fingertips turning completely white. The heavy atmosphere was more oppressive than anything else. Dung Thu stood outside the door, not daring to step in, but the corners of her eyes were already red. I turned my head to look at him. Dung Thu took a deep breath. After the accident at the wedding, you and Bui Yenhai were both carried to the ambulance. Even though she was unconscious, at the time, she still gripped your hand tightly without letting go, only releasing it when you reached the hospital. You only suffered minor skin scrapes and very quickly woke up. She was injured much more severely than you. That night, you stayed awake all night guarding her hospital bedside. When she woke up, the two of you hugged for a long time. After that, her mother led a group of people storming straight into the hospital to drag her away. And then you chased all the way to the airport. What happened after that? You already know, all of us. We're certain that she didn't need you anymore. No one had the heart to let you remember her once more. We just wanted to protect you. Protect me. My voice carried choked sobs. The person you protected was someone who didn't remember anything at all. While she was outside, instead of this amnesiac carrying everything on her back for 5 years. Zhang Chen. I turned around and walked toward the door. Tong Tulan instinctively reached her hand out to pull me back, but I shook her off and stepped straight outside. The car rushed out of the Jiang Corporation gates. I called. Dung Thu, immediately check for me where she is right now. President Bui's eldest young lady is currently at the orphanage. I jerked the steering wheel, stepping on the gas and speeding straight toward the orphanage. My phone buzzed with a text message from Dung Thu. I glanced at it once and turned off the screen. Right now, there is only one place I want to go. When I found her at the orphanage, she was squatting on the grass, braiding hair for a little girl. When she turned to see me, her smile paused for a second before fading away. Paused for a second, then tucked, switching back to the familiar expression that I usually saw. Why did you come here again? You went to find your dad. She didn't speak, but her gaze tightened slightly. 5 years ago, my dad thought you chose to leave me, so he hid it from me for 5 years. My mom also resented you for 5 years. Hang my. Yenhi trembled. So you finally found out. Her eye sockets turned red, as if trying hard to hold back and suppress something. Yeah, every day. I watched videos of your performance. When you played Dream of the Butterfly at the Vienna Golden Hall, that was the piece of music I chose. 5 years have already passed, and you missed 5 years of my most beautiful youth. I pulled that girl tightly into my arms for a very long time. Afterwards, she raised her head. 5 years ago, you told me that in this life and this lifetime, you would only marry me alone. I engraved those words deep into my bones for 5 years. Today, could it be that you've also forgotten about that? The shattered fragments of my memories madly flooded back into my mind inside the church. I was so nervous, I was stuttering. She stepped out wearing a white wedding dress. Everyone was silent. I remembered myself saying, "You are the true love of my life. In this lifetime, if it's not you, I won't marry anyone else." She smiled, her eyes curving, and then she kissed me very lightly. Briefly, I gripped her hand tightly and kissed her back in response. "And he don't ever leave me again. We'll stay together for the rest of our lives. Okay?" She buried her face in the crook of my shoulder, her voice soft. "I've waited for these words from you for 5 years already." My phone buzzed. It was a text message from Dong-thu. President Zhang. The acquisition offer from Buikan Han has officially entered the review process. Manhwa has pumped in triple the previous amount of capital. This afternoon, Bui Cultural and Creative Industries will hold an extraordinary board of directors meeting. She raised her head from my shoulder, seeing the phone screen. Buikan Han is starting to rush things. Pumping in triple the capital proves that either he has pulled in a bigger backer or wants to muddy the waters before the official review. She let go of my shirt collar, raised her head to look at me. "How do you know?" "The dossier on Buikan Han that you gave me. I also kept a copy over the past 2 days. I've studied it carefully." She was stunned for a second and burst into laughter. "Since when did you become so proactive?" "From the day you told me 10 o'clock tomorrow morning." The corners of her mouth twitched up again, this time not with social politeness, but with the firmness of someone who had finally confirmed something. "The board of directors meeting next week. I have a plan." Right now, she reached out and grabbed my fingers, gripping them very tightly, just like 5 years ago at the hospital, holding tightly onto my hand without letting go. "Right now, I just want to stay with you." Her fingers clenched tightly around my hand and didn't let go. I didn't let go of her hand either. That night, she pulled me to sit on the long bench in front of the Welfare Institute gates. Buikan Han wants to muddy the waters during the extraordinary board meeting. In that case, I will let him drown right in that very muddy puddle. His acquisition of the subsidiary companies is only the first step. His real target is control over Bui Cultural and Creative Industries. How are you so certain? He opened a company right opposite me. Someone who only wants to buy back. A subsidiary company wouldn't spend a mountain of money on rent just to open an office there. He's declaring war, not doing business. How do you plan to expose him? The girl shook her head slightly. "I won't expose him. I will let him expose himself." "The dossier Dong-thu gave you, you still have it, right?" I nodded. "I still have it." She smiled gently. "Then that's good. In a few days, I need you to stand by my side." A few days later, in the top floor meeting room of the Bui Cultural and Creative Industries headquarters, I arrived early. Dong-thu was by my side. In his hand was a stack of documents, his expression tense, but his gaze filled with excitement. "The play today. I've waited 3 months for it." I didn't speak. My fingers fidgeted with Buikan Han's dossier. Every line of capital flow here, every capital injection, every time and meeting location I had memorized. This is a blade. Today, I will help her deliver the finishing blow. Right at this moment, the board members, in my hands a stack of documents. His expression was tense, but his eyes were filled with excitement. "This drama today. I've been waiting for 3 months. I didn't speak. My fingers fiddled with Buikan Han's documents, line by line. The capital flows, the investment amounts every single time. Meeting place, I had already memorized them. This is a knife. Today, I will help her deal the final blow. Right at this moment, the members of the board members, walked in one by one. The person walking in last was Buikan Han. Seeing, his gaze flashed with a trace of scrutiny, but quickly withdrew it. "Yenhe, long time no see. Your complexion looks much better now. Sit down. Let's start the meeting." Buikan Han took the initiative to speak. "Everyone, a few days ago, I submitted an acquisition letter of intent targeting the subsidiary company belonging to Bui Cultural and Creative Industries that specializes in managing performance connections. Yenhai Surly, you've already read the contents of the letter of intent. This acquisition deal is a good thing for Bui, cultural and creative industries, Yenhai. Subsidiary companies operating independently will be more efficient and will also reduce the financial reporting pressure on the parent company. Yenhai didn't speak. Merely looking at him, the corners of her lips slightly twitching. Bui Kan Han, your letter of intent, I've read it. There's a small issue. The legal entity for the acquisition subject, you listed as Chuvan, yet after stripping down the shares, the ultimate beneficiary turns out to be you. The meeting room was dead silent. Bui Yenhai placed the documents onto the table. Bui Kan Han picked them. To take a glance, his smile starting to stiffen. That's just a formal error. It doesn't affect the substance of the transaction. Bui Yenhai didn't entertain him. Second issue. Who is the strategic investor? Bui Kan Han broke out in a cold sweat. This matter relates to commercial confidentiality and isn't convenient to make public. Bui Yenhai gave a cold chuckle. No need for you to make it public. I've already investigated and found out it's two companies under Tu Mingvian's name jointly contributing capital. Bui Kan Han's expression changed. Inside the meeting room, people started whispering and murmuring. Bui Yenhai picked up the third dossier, her voice still calm. The third issue. The third clause. In your letter of intent notes that after the acquisition is completed, purchasing side has the right to carry out asset restructuring and adjust business directions. What does the scope of asset restructuring include? Bui Kan Han didn't answer. The meeting room completely plunged into silence. I stood to one side coldly, observing this scene. He didn't want to buy back the subsidiary company. He wanted to seize at 15% and then use this 15% leverage, take over full control of Bui cultural and creative industries. Bui Kan Han abruptly stood up. Do you think you can stop this matter just like this? Bui Yenhai sat in the chairperson's seat. Do you think I only have these 3 dossiers? Bui Kan Han's pupils abruptly constricted. How could you? Noto. Dung Thu brought a stack of documents in his hand and placed them before. Bui Yenhai then walked out to push open the meeting room doors. Outside the door were 2 people, standing a lawyer and an auditor. Since last week, they had begun carrying out a comprehensive audit of your company. Results include abnormal cash flows, a hidden actual controller, concealed acquisition clauses, suspected malicious takeover acts, and there's one more thing. She paused, looking over at me. I stepped to the side of Bui Yenhai. The last trace of Bui Kan Han's smile completely shattered. When your mother kicked my father out of the board of directors, I already said sooner or later there would come a day when you pay the price. Bui Yenhai slightly rolled her eyes, speaking with no patience. My mother chased your father out of the board of directors because he embezzled 30 million in public funds and fabricated accounts for 3 whole years. You don't think your father was wronged, do you? Wasn't wronged. He broke the law, which is why he was kicked out. My mother didn't pursue criminal liability and still left your uncle a way to survive. Yet you felt it was a grievance and harbored hatred for 5 years, planning all of this. Well, now I am telling you everything you've done is in vain. Bui Kan Han's pupils abruptly contracted. How did you find out? When my mother cleaned up the board of directors. She left behind complete audit records. I've already read them all. She turned back to look at the board. Members. Everyone. The acquirer. The actual controller. Bui Kan Han's background and all the issues of the letter of intent have already been placed on the table. Now, please cast your votes. Topics of the commercial proposal have all been placed on the table. Now, invite everyone to cast your votes. Approved. The eldest board member spoke up, vetoing the acquisition, appraisal, and initiating the investigation and audit process. Not a single person objected. Bui Kan Han stood in the middle of the meeting room like a blade that had been snapped in half. His gloomy gaze was still there, but the blade's edge had already grown dull. He looked at me, then looked at Bui Yenhai, his lips moving, without uttering a single word, before turning around and walking toward the door. Arriving at the door, he paused for a beat, turned his head to look at Bui Yenhai. Do you think this is the end of it? Bui Yenhai didn't look at him. Do you believe that opening a company right opposite me Right now, when I look up at that sign of yours, all I see is a wall full of violations. Buikan-han left and the meeting room doors closed. The 7 members of the board of directors were all looking at Bui Yenhi with gazes carrying something I had never seen before. It wasn't fear, but a deep, heartfelt submission. I and Bui Yenhi stepped out of the Boe Cultural and Creative Industries headquarters. Standing across the street, Buikan-han's company sign was still there, its glass walls reflecting sunlight upon the sign, bearing the bold words, Kan-han Cultural Media, looking as brand new as if it had just been hung up yesterday. I looked at that sign in silence. Once the investigation and audit process started, he would only be able to liquidate his assets or transfer them, and then, there was no third path. The corners of her lips curved up slightly. This sign will disappear within 3 days. By then, every time we look up and see. She turned to look at me. There will only be the sky left. Her eyes were filled with nothing but tenderness. Bui Yenhi stepped out of the building and saw me, the corners of her mouth curling up. You came. I handed her a latte. She took it, lowered her head to take a look. No sugar. Teased her, making her burst into laughter. She held the cup, her fingers brushing against the rim of the cup. You finally remembered, after all. The phone call from Dong-thu came through. The investigation and audit results are completely in. President Buikan-han has been ruled guilty of malicious takeover. The company accounts have been frozen, and the capital pumped in from Tuminvian has been returned. He liquidated his assets and fled in the middle of the night. Tutinvan has also withdrawn all cooperation and issued a statement severing ties. Bui Yenhi listened and let out a soft laugh. His fangs had already been broken off long ago, but he still wanted to struggle for one last bite. I looked at the bare glass wall of the building. Opposite. You're right, looking up will only leave the sky. She turned to look at me with deep tenderness in her eyes. I continued, but there are still 2 things we haven't finished doing. My mom had resented her for 5 years, and my mom had also driven her away 5 years ago. Returning to the Zhang family, Tong Tuelan was sitting in the living room holding a teacup. To resolve the first matter, Mom, I have something I want to say to you. My mother couldn't even be bothered to look at me. Coming to put in a good word for her again, I suppose. I'm not putting in a good word for her, but telling you the truth about 5 years ago. She didn't voluntarily leave, but was forced away by her mother and taken away. At the airport that day, she turned around and shouted loudly, telling me to wait, and then was dragged onto a plane. I chased after her and then passed out, waking up without remembering anything. Tong Tu-lan's hand movement froze the teacup suspended mid-air. What? You thought she abandoned me, so you resented her for 5 years. Yet she never abandoned me. She shouldered things for the Zhang family in the UK for 5 years, paving the way for me and blocking bullets for me. You always assumed she chose to leave of her own accord, but in reality, she was forced to be taken away. Tong Tu-lan's hand holding the teacup clenched tightly onto the cup. Did I hate the wrong person? My mother's tears welled up instantly. I only saw her leave, and you called out her name the entire night. I thought she didn't want you anymore, so I resented her for 5 years. I don't want you to hate her anymore. My voice choked slightly. Tomorrow, I'm going to bring her home for dinner. Tong Tu-lan wiped her tears and nodded. Tong Juan walked out from the study, both hands clenched tightly, remaining silent for a long moment. The girl shouldered things for the Zhang family. For 5 years, yet I didn't even give a single word of thanks. For the Zhang family. For 5 years, yet I didn't even get a single word of thanks. Thanks were never even spoken. That wedding back then was arranged single-handedly by me. On the marriage certificate, the witness listed was my name. As a result, after the accident happened at the wedding, I hid it from you for 5 years. I thought doing that was protecting you. In reality, it was just running away. He pulled out a box from behind him. This thing should have been given to you sooner. It's my fault. The box was opened. Inside were wedding photos from 5 years ago and a videotape, the tape's cover. Recording the date, June 8th, at St. John's Church. The videotape was put into the machine. Inside the screen, she wore a white wedding dress, her hands holding a bouquet of white lilies, step by step, walking toward me. Me in the video was so nervous. I was stuttering. I do. The whole hall burst into laughter, and she laughed too. She ran toward me and plunged into my arms. The entire hall cheered with thunderous applause. Me on the screen could only laugh foolishly while holding her. My tears fell down. The memories flooded back. But this time, they were no longer fragments, instead forming a complete picture. The memories locked away in the deepest depths had finally been unlocked. In the afternoon, Bui Yenhee received a phone call. She sat in a daze for 2 seconds before hurriedly answering. The matter at the board of directors. Mom saw it. You did even better than Mom did back then. 5 years ago, when Mom took you away, Mom thought doing that was protecting you. For the 5 years you were in the UK, every path that Mom arranged for you, you turned them into stepping stones of your own. That boy, Zhang Chen, initially. Mom thought he wasn't worthy of you, but over the past 5 years, Mom has understood a great deal. Mom knows this man is someone you chose yourself. No one can stop you. Bui Yenhee's voice trembled slightly. Mom, finally, you're willing to say these words, Mom. On the other end of the line, she paused for a beat. What Mom owes you isn't just an apology. From now on, whatever happens with Bui Industries, you can make your own decisions. Mom won't make any decisions for you ever again. You've proven that you can do even better than me. Bui Yenhee hung up the phone, standing by the window, looking out. For a long time, I walked in. She wasn't even aware of it. After a long while, when she turned around and saw me, she smiled. My mom said you're very worthy. Dad said he won't make decisions for me anymore, saying I can already do better than her. I stepped forward and pulled her into my arms. This single sentence she had waited for 5 years, and it was more useful than any apology. The next day I brought Bui Yenhee back to the Zhang family. Tung Tuelan stood at the door, looking seriously at Bui Yenhee. Yenhai Mom resented you for 5 years, Mom. Thought you left and didn't want Zhang Chen anymore. But Zhang Chen told Mom that at the airport you turned round and shouted, telling boy to wait. Tung Tuelan stepped forward and grabbed Bui Yenhee's hand. Yenhee, it was Mom who was wrong. Over the past 5 years, the hardships you suffered were partly caused by me. The fact that you paved the way for the boy Mom had no idea at all. I'm sorry. Bui Yenhee's tears fell silently. Yenhee Mom owes the two of you a wedding. A wedding from 5 years ago that Mom arranged for you couldn't be finished. Let Mom help the two of you organize it once more. This time it must be held completely and perfectly, okay? On the day of the wedding at St. John's Church, Manager Chu stood at the door, watching us walk, and you two finally came back. I've been waiting here for 5 whole years. Every day, before opening the door, I would look up at the stage area that had been repaired, always thinking that one day the two of you would return. I stood on the platform, my voice still nervous, to the point of choking up. 5 years ago, I was so nervous I couldn't speak. This time, I only have one sentence. Bui Yenhee, in this lifetime, if it's not you, I won't marry anyone else. This time, I won't let anyone take you away. She smiled, her tears blending into her smile. I also only have one sentence, Zhang Chen, I've waited. I will never let anyone take you away. She smiled, her tears blending into her smile. I only have one thing to say to Jishen, I've waited you for 5 years, and now you finally don't have to wait anymore. After they finished speaking, they began exchanging rings with each other. The ring from 5 years ago that hadn't been put on in time finally got to be worn. Now, Tung Tuelan sat below, tears streaming endlessly from her eyes. Yet the smile on her lips was more genuine than it was 5 years ago. Bui Yenhee's mother sat in the rows on the other side, not saying a single word, just quietly watching her daughter, wearing the white wedding dress. I held her hand. Now if you raise your head and look, what do you see? She raised her head to look at the sky, opposite us, and also at our happy future. In the morning on the first day after getting married, I opened my eyes and woke up. Sunlight seeped through the gap in the curtains to shine into the room. I reached my hand to the side the other. Half of the bed was empty. Panic struck my heart, and my whole body sprang up. Pushing barefoot right out of the bedroom, the living room, and kitchen had no one in them until I looked out onto the balcony. Shipu, sitting on a wicker chair, morning sunlight cast across, her hair holding a cup of warm water. With a dazed look toward the distance, I stepped forward, hugging her from behind. "You scared the hell out of me." She was startled by my sudden action into laughing, leaning back against my chest. "I just forgot to wake up early." That's all. For 5 years in the UK, I woke up like that every day. Why wake up so early? To wait for you. Wait for me for what? Wait for your performance videos. To go live, wait for your new albums to be released. Wait for you to play Dream of the Butterfly. She paused, for a moment, her voice turning soft like mist. Every day when I woke up, the very first thing was to check where you were. Hearing these words, the heartache was real, but I also felt immensely warm. Over the past 5 years, every time she woke up, she had searched for me, whereas I couldn't even remember her name. I lowered my head to kiss the top of her head. From now on, the very first thing upon waking up won't need to be searching anymore, because you'll always be sleeping right beside me. She didn't speak, but her fingers clenched tightly around the sleeve of my shirt. "Come on." In the kitchen, I cooked a bowl of porridge for her. She held the bowl, drinking it in tiny small sips. I suddenly remembered what Tutanhuan had once said. By my side, she had had to rely on nutritional supplements to sustain herself for a long time. Looking at the way she drank her porridge, a bitter yet tender ache surged up inside my heart once more. "Drink slowly, don't rush." She raised her head to look at me. For a second, the corners of her mouth twitching up slightly. "With you staring at me, right by my side like this, how could I rush?" "All right, I won't look." I turned my head, pretending to look out the window. But the corners of my eyes were always fixed on her. In the evening after she finished her porridge, she let out a satisfied sigh. Her phone rang. It was a text message from Dongtu. "Jongchen, congratulations. Congratulations on your happy wedding. Have you woken up yet? How did you sleep last night? How is the Bui eldest young lady's mood? What did you two have for breakfast?" I didn't reply to any of them. The next text message followed right behind. "By the way, President Zhang, next Wednesday, you have another performance in Shenzhen. The Bui eldest young lady previously booked out 3 years of your schedule. Now that you two are married, does this performance schedule need any adjustments?" I handed the phone to Bui Yanhe. "You bought out 3 years of my performances. What should we do now?" She glanced at the message and burst into laughter. "My husband spent money to buy my husband's gig, and now you want a refund," I resignedly said. "So I've just been kept and raised by you like this." She arched an eyebrow at me, her gaze flashing with a trace of smugness. Back then, I forked out 5.2 million yuan to invite you to play Dream of the Butterfly. Now that I've monopolized all 3 years, tell me, is that a steal or not? 3 years combined, how many shows in total? She mentally calculated roughly over 40 shows. On average, each show is less than 150,000. Your appearance fees have gone up, but I bought them. Early bird pricing. Where did you learn all these business terms? Learned them in the UK, obviously. Did you think I was just managing the company for nothing? How many buckets? She mentally calculated about over 40 buckets, averaging less than 150,000 per bucket. Your car prices went up, but I bought mine early. Buying early, where on earth did you learn these business terms from? I learned them in the UK. What do you think? Not from managing a company, but so you also have to know how to calculate. She paused for a beat, her tone becoming gentle. However, those performances were all personally chosen by me from the location of each stage and each set list of performing items. The layout of every single audience seat, I've already looked through them. I looked through the memos when I was in the UK. Before every performance, I would always receive a report confirming the location, sound and lighting system, and safety measures were all in order before I signed to confirm. She looked at me, her voice once more, light as a feather. I couldn't go with you onto the stage, but I could ensure that when you stood on stage, everything around you was the absolute best. Over 40 performances throughout the past 3 years. I had thought it was all thanks to luck, but turns out, behind every single stage there was someone checking every single light wire, every screw of the sound speakers for me. Then why didn't you come see me back then? She reached out her hand to stroke my face back. And my mom didn't understand you. One of the conditions for her to agree to invest capital in Jang family was precisely that I wasn't allowed to meet you. With heartache, I pulled that girl tightly into my arms. Right at this moment, Dongthu's message was sent again. President Zhang, please answer me and stop drowning in your tender sweet dreams. Let me know if the show in Shenzhen is actually happening or not. Wu Yanhee took my phone and directly sent a voice message. The Shenzhen show will proceed as normal. Furthermore, starting from next month, all performance contracts will be converted into joint husband and wife contracts. Zhang Chen's appearance fee remains unchanged. The cultural industries will no longer handle matters privately, but will be directly signed by Zhang Chen Studio. Dongthu replied immediately. Received Bui, eldest young lady is wise. Then I won't disturb the two newlywed lovers' affection any longer. Yanhai returned the phone to me, the corners of her mouth curving up. Your assistant is quite interesting. He's only got a big mouth, but he works quite reliably. I know, otherwise I wouldn't have let him stay by your side. Dongthu was arranged by you, She didn't directly answer, only saying, do you think an ordinary music student stepping up from a small pub onto the international stage was entirely on his own accord? Turns out, behind every stroke of luck, there was her. Let's go somewhere. Where to? The orphanage. A little girl with braided pigtails at the orphanage gate was the first person to run over. She hugged Bui Yanhee's leg, then looked at me with wide-opened eyes. Big sister, who is this uncle? Bui Yanhai squatted down, patting the little girl's head. He is big sister's husband. The little girl was even more surprised. Husband means they got married. Got married. The little girl looked at Bui Yanhai, then looked at me and tilted her head to ask, Big sister, why is your hair so white? Bui Yanhee froze for a second. I stood beside her. With my heart tightening, she smiled and replied, because big sister waited for someone for too long. So my hair turned gray from worry. The little girl seriously said, then starting from today, you don't need to wait anymore. Hai is already by your side. Your hair will turn black again, right? Probably. He will help me dye it black again. Then after it's dyed, it will definitely be very pretty. I squatted down to look at the little girl's eye level. Definitely, because big sister was already very pretty to begin with. The little girl giggled and ran off to find the other children to announce she got married. Big sister's husband is very handsome. So, the courtyard immediately became lively. The kids swarmed over again to ask, Mister, what is your job? Do you know how to play the flute? Can you teach us how to play the flute? Bui Yanhee stood to the side watching, smiling until her eyes crinkled. In the afternoon, after kids took their nap, I and Bui Yanhee sat on a swing in the courtyard. It had been a long time since it was this peaceful. During those 5 years, in the UK, every single day was busy with the board of directors, the company arranging performances, and looking at your news every day. I turned to look at her. Now you don't have turning to look at her. You aren't need to look anymore. I'm right beside you. She closed her eyes, murmuring a soft response. It's become a habit. It takes time to fix. Well then, just fix it slowly, no rush. Right, there's still one thing I haven't told you. What thing? This orphanage, I've always been funding it, not under the name of Bowie Industries, but under my own personal name. Every month, a sum of money and supplies to clothes, books. When I was in the UK, I couldn't come here myself, but the funds were never interrupted. These children, just like you, are people whose fates were arranged by their families. I didn't want them to be like you, waiting a full 5 years to get a result. I looked at her profile. This woman, even when suffering herself, was still shouldering suffering for others. Right at this moment, the sound of footsteps echoed from the orphanage gate. I raised my head to see the figure of Tutin Van, standing at the door. She was carrying a bag of toys. A forced smile on her face. I came to do some charity. She looked at Bui Yenhi, then back at me, trying to keep her tone natural. I heard supplies were needed here, so I brought a few. Bui Yenhi stood up, her expression calm, but her gaze turning cold by several notches. Miss Tu, coming to do charity. Isn't this still about Van Ngok's side? I've already severed ties, and also issued a statement stating it has nothing to do with Bui Kan Han anymore. Regarding Mr. Zhang's past matter, I am deeply sorry. Miss Tu, doing charity doesn't require you to personally come over. A bank transfer will do. You coming here personally, is it to show me your sincerity or to let Zhang Chen see those branded earrings you're wearing? I didn't plan for the matter of you teaming up with Bui Kan Han. I've already dealt with it. The statement you issued, I've also seen it. But Miss Tu, doing charity isn't carrying a bag of toys and standing here. That's not called kindness. That's called acting. Tutin Van bit her lip, clutching the bag tightly in her hand. Bui Yenhi looked at her for 2 seconds, then turned and sat back down on the swing. You can leave the things here. Next time, you don't need to come personally. Tutin Van stood at the door, her complexion pale and mottled. Seeing that I didn't say anything, she put the things down and turned to run away, her footsteps twice as fast as when she arrived. The courtyard plunged back into silence. Bui Yenhi had already recovered her usual calm composure. She won't come a second time. Your dialogue just now was even more ruthless than the time at the board of directors. The board of directors was fighting a battle, whereas this is cleaning up. Battlefield. Cleaning up the battlefield is just as decisive. Why wouldn't it be decisive? A battlefield that isn't cleaned up thoroughly will always have people thinking they still have a chance. She no longer has a chance, not because of your words, but because you chose me. She looked at me, depths of her eyes softening for a fleeting moment. Yeah, I know. Yet the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curve up. On the car ride back, Bui Yenhi suddenly furrowed her brows. I immediately looked over. What's wrong? She reached out to hold her stomach. I'm a bit uncomfortable. It's nothing, just that I ate a bit too much sweets today. What sweets? I said nervously. That wasn't sweets. She gave me a sidelong glance. No, you're so sweet. My stomach couldn't handle it. I was caught off guard by this line, my heart skipping a beat before bursting into laughter. Bui Yenhi, when did you learn how to flirt? She closed her eyes and said, I practiced it myself during my free time in the UK. Didn't continue the banter, reaching out to massage her stomach with gentle movements that touched upon her sore spot. A bit lighter. I reduced my force. When will your stomach ailment ever fully recover? She didn't answer directly, only saying, It's already much better than last year. Eating a piece of bread would make me vomit. Now being able to eat a bowl of porridge is already progress. Last year, eating a piece of bread would make me vomit. My heart ached deeply. What kind of days were those all by herself? She in the UK. Bit lighter. I lessened my force. Your stomach disease When is it ever going to fully heal? She didn't answer directly, only saying it was much better than last year. Last year, eating a piece of bread would make her throw up. Now being able to eat a bowl of congee was already progress. Last year, eating a piece of bread would make her throw up. My heart ached. What kind of days were those? She was all alone, over in the UK, while managing the company, paving the way for me, and at the same time fighting against anorexia. I didn't dare ask any further, just continuing to massage. My movements gentler than before. She gradually relaxed, her breathing steadying. Once more. Thank you, Hongchen. You're welcome. This is what a husband should do. The corners of her lips curved up again. That line rolled off your tongue so smoothly. Where'd you learn that from? Arriving back at the apartment, it was already dusk. She went into the bedroom to change her clothes while I sat outside in the living room. Dongthu sent another message. President Zhang, the event at the Shenzhen Gymnasium next Wednesday has been confirmed. The sound and lighting systems are both problem-free. Bui Yanhe has also checked the site survey report you signed. Every single item has red notes. Even the gradient of the audience stands was inspected. This woman is truly... Regarding this, my respect for her is endless. I replied to Dongthu with 2 words. Shut up. Dongthu replied instantly, understood. I put my phone down and walked toward the bedroom door. The door wasn't closed. Her back was facing me, revealing a stretch of her waist that was very skinny. So skinny that it made my heart ache. I hadn't noticed before that there was a small scar on her waist. I didn't remember. I couldn't remember this. She turned around, discovering my gaze falling upon her waist. She hurriedly reached out to pull her t-shirt down a bit. On the day of the wedding, the stage collapsed, and you rushed over to shield me and got hit by a splinter of wood. I stepped forward, gently lifting the corner of her t-shirt. The scar wasn't large, but its shape was uneven. My fingers touched it, and she trembled slightly. Is this from shieldings? Me. Yeah. From now on, there won't be things like that anymore. I won't let you get hurt because of me anymore. She looked at me. I won't let you get hurt because of me anymore. She looked at me. I won't let you get hurt because of me anymore. She looked at me. I won't let you get hurt because of me anymore. She looked at me. I won't let you get hurt because of me anymore. She looked at me. I won't let you get hurt because of me anymore. She looked at me. I took it and opened it. The date was June 9th, 5 years ago. Second day after she was forced onto the airplane. Written above. Zhangchen, where are you today? You must still be at the hospital. Have you woken up yet? Do you remember me? Turning to the second page, June 10th. You've left the hospital. Dongthu says. You're resting at home, not mentioning me at all. Did you really forget me? I continued, turning pages. The format of every page was the same, the date. Zhangchen, where are you today? What did you do? How are you doing? The later pages gradually changed, adding in information about my performances. He played Dream of the Butterfly at the music concert hall with the symphony orchestra. In the apartment in London, I listened to it 3 times. He held a solo recital in Berlin. The set list included Moonlight. Moonlight is the piece I like the most. He won the gold medal at the Vagi Music Festival. The path I paved ahead for him has finally reached the finish line. I flipped to the final few pages. The handwriting grew faster and more sloppy, as if she were writing in a rush. The final page's date was last month, and above, it was just a single line of text. He finally played Dream of the Butterfly in front of me. He's finally back. I closed the notebook, my throat choked with bitterness. 5 years, every single day and night. She had been searching for me. I put the notebook down and looked at her. Every day. You wrote this? She nodded. It became a habit, and it was the only thing I could do. I stepped forward, pulling her into my arms. You don't need to write anymore. Starting from today, I will always be by your side. I know, but I won't throw the notebook away. It kept the past 5 years for me. I have to keep it. Keep it, then every page. I want to read, she smiled. Now that you've finished. Reading it, there's still one page you haven't read yet. I was stunned. There's still more. She pulled a piece of paper folded into multiple creases, out from inside the notebook cover. I wrote this letter over 5 years, writing a paragraph each year, but the final paragraph, I never managed to finish writing. I lowered my head to read the opening. Zhang, if forgetting me makes you happy, then forget. I don't want you to suffer because of me. The second paragraph, Zhang, if you remember, then forget it. I don't want you to come find me. I am in Jing City, at Bui Cultural and Creative Industries, at the orphanage, at any place where you can see me. The third paragraph, Zhang, if you resent me, I accept your resentment too. Just don't forget. A resentment at least shows you still remember me. The position of the final paragraph was left blank. The final paragraph she wanted to write. If you come back, then never leave again. But she never dared to write it, because she wasn't sure whether you would come back or not. I looked at her hesitating gaze and wrote into the blank space. At the very end, a line of text, I'm back and I will never leave again. Her tears finally fell, not a tear of sadness, but of letting go, of putting down all the anxieties. The past 5 years, Gongchen Yu wrote it, so don't you dare cross it out. I won't cross it out. Whatever you cross, but I'll pay you back for it. Tears can't be paid back. This price is way too high. I hugged her tightly. Then don't make me cross it out. She hugged me back, outside the window. The sky had turned dusky, but lights inside the room were still bright. Her white hair under the light was like moonlight draped over my shoulders. I looked at her, thinking to myself, white hair is a fine black. Hair is fine too. The scars as well. The diary, the 2 letters, it doesn't matter anymore. Those were all proofs that she had waited for me. And now I finally had the qualification to turn these proofs into memories with my own hands. Returning to the living room, my phone vibrated again. It was a text message from Dongtu President Buchanan's company. Has been liquidated, but he still has an overseas account that hasn't been traced. The destination of the final transfer is Jing City, and the recipient has not been tracked down yet. The amount is just enough to register a new company. I looked at this text message, my eyebrows furrowing tightly. Buchanan still had a trump card left. Bienhai saw my expression and asked, "What's wrong?" Buchanan probably still hasn't completely left. I handed the phone to her. She glanced briefly at the message, the corners of her mouth twitching, then let him come. She leaned against my shoulder, her tone calm. After all, I have you by my side now. Yet her fingers clenched tightly around my shirt sleeve, unwilling to let go. Buchanan's overseas transfer was tracked down 3 days later. Tuktanhuan, the recipient, was a shell company, yet Buyenhi was even faster than him. 1 day before the funds arrived, she had her lawyers freeze that account. Buchanan's final stroke didn't even have time to be drawn before the blade was confiscated. 2 tin. Man had withdrawn from all circles of connection with me. The branded earrings, I didn't wear them, but I didn't throw them away either. When Buyenhi saw that velvet box, she only said one thing: keep them, wear them in the future. Consider it her final bit of goodwill left for you. You aren't even bothered by the things she gave me. She chuckled. Trampling on flowers back, then what to fight for them? Now there's no need to fight anymore. You are already my husband. What rivals? A month later, Dongthu finally found out the whole truth. After finding out, he shocked and exclaimed, "So my promotion and salary raise over the past 5 years were also approved by the Bui eldest young lady." Couldn't help bursting into loud laughter. You finally know who your real boss is. Half a year later. Bui Yanhee went for a general health checkup. Her condition was much better than before. She just needed to continue maintaining this state. When she brought the result sheet back, her expression was very calm. Yet I still saw her let out a stealthy sigh of relief. On the day Bui's mother arrived in Jing City, Bui Yanhee personally went to the airport to welcome her. 5 years ago, she had personally sent her daughter off onto the airplane. 5 years later, she flew over, standing at the arrival gate and seeing her daughter's eyes turn red at the rims. After flying over, standing at the exit and seeing her daughter's eyes red-rimmed. Yanhee, Mom owes you more than just an apology. Bui's mother reached out her hands. Yanhee hesitated for 2 seconds, then took her hand. In the twilight, we sat out on the balcony. Her hands, she held that old notebook. On the final page, the line of text I wrote was still there. I'm back, and I will never leave again. She flipped this page, her fingers pausing before she chuckled. Your handwriting is really ugly. From afar, the sound of a bamboo flute drifted over. It was the speaker I hadn't turned off yet. Yanhee's white hair 3 months later had started turning black again. Bui's mother, for the first time, took the initiative to invite me over for a meal. Midway through dinner, she said, "This child from now on is already half a member of the Bui family." Bui Yanhee paused and I quickly jumped in. "Auntie, it's me, all of me, is already a member of the Bui family." I reminisced about that day when I proposed. That day, I finished playing the piece of Moonlight she liked the most, along with the lights and fresh flowers, just like 5 years ago, except that this time, the person proposing had changed to meet. Bui Yanhee stepped up onto the stage to present me with flowers. I didn't take them. I directly dropped to one knee. 5 years ago, you protected me. From now on, let it be me protecting you, Yanhee. Will you be willing to marry me? The woman's eyes welled with tears, and she choked up as she nodded, then leaned down to kiss me. Thank you for accompanying this story to the very last minute.